Hey, just preamble before we start. This week we do talk about Rogue One and we go into spoilers. I'm like, 2 minutes. No, we went on about it for about 15 minutes or so. We really kind of see the episode out with it. So if you don't want to know anything about Rogue One, there's a good point there where I'm like, spoilers. So yeah, enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Easily Excitable podcast. My name is Top Man. With me this week is Russell. Hey man, how's it going?
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It is coming very much up to Christmas time and holiday time, and I actually can't wait to just chill out and relax and have a few days to just do nothing.
Well, for you, it's also got to be a bit of an interesting time of the year because obviously you've just had your birthday as well, so it's kind of like jamming all of that kind of like fun and attention towards me, kind of like, or family attention into like 3 weeks effectively. So you don't even get like, mine's in July, so kind of like I get this point kind of during the middle of the year, but I can imagine a December birthday is probably not actually that great, to be honest.
No, it's less than 2 weeks between my birthday and Christmas, so it's just like, I don't like doing any Christmassy things until after my birthday. But given the fact that shipping and everything is things now, and a lot of the shopping that I do relies on online shopping, and like you have to get things shipped within a certain time, and it gets hectic and things get delayed. Yep. It becomes, I now need to do my shopping before my birthday, so I have to start thinking about it. But this year was also exceptionally strange because I was working on an assignment that I'm sure many people are aware of, just happened to absorb my life for a couple of weeks. And I finished it the day before my birthday, and all the way up until then, all I wanted for my birthday was for that assignment to be finished. I was just like, I just want it done. Finished it the day before my birthday so then I could celebrate my birthday in peace. And yeah, luckily I got that. And I was like, yes, I'm so... it was nice. It was a nice day to just relax that day.
Now, as a child, did you ever get like
yes.
one big present instead of like two small ones? Or...
Big presents.
Yeah, with inverted commas.
Yeah, so like when I was like 19, I was at university, and my parents were like, "Oh yeah, we can get you an iPod," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I would like an iPod Touch," and so they got me an iPod Mini, obviously, between the both, and then I was like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. I don't mind." And then for my sister's birthday, which is in July, the following summer, she got an iPod Touch, like of the spec I wanted, and I was just like, "That's unfair." I was not particularly pleased, but at the same time, I got some pretty cool things over the years. Nothing I can really complain about. Just like, yeah, but yeah, I don't know, something's going wrong here. That's what it is. Okay, yeah, something I don't know. Yeah, pushing gifts together meant I could kind of ask for slightly more expensive things.
Yeah.
At the same time, I didn't feel like it. Now, also, being 28, I'm just like, don't really want any presents. I'm kind of okay with not really getting much. I got like 3 things for my birthday, and I was like, I'm completely happy with this. All I want is to just chill out and have a night where I'm just like, not making my own food, and we can get a takeaway and just chill out.
Yeah, that's what I say, kind of like when adulthood gets to you. Like my dad always asks me the question like every year, kind of like, what do you want for Christmas? And usually I'll say, just get me something that kind of like you think I might like, because I'm the type of person who would buy what he wants when I want it, so I don't kind of save things up for people, which can be kind of bad, but I'm just like, if I want it, I go get it. But this year my dad was like, do you want anything? And I was like, oh yeah, there's something that's like really cool. Like, I haven't bought it. I'll be like, if you could get it, it would be amazing. So I sent the details through to him, and he was like, I'm not spending £1,000 on a drone for you, Russell.
Dear. Yeah, no, that's what I'm finding as well. It's like, if I want something, I can buy it. So I'm just like, I don't really need to ask for anything unless like there's something really specific that I don't want to buy for myself, which is rare at this point. Like any video games, I'm just like, I can buy them, and I'd rather either have money to go towards them or like not even bother, because I get most of my games digital now anyway.
Yeah, and that's sort of kind of like me and my family introduced something probably about 4 or 5 years ago, which was effectively find a book, find a piece of music, and find a film that we don't think the other person's seen or read or heard before, to kind of say, I think you might like this.
That'd be a really good idea. That's a really good idea, actually, because Like every year, my dad and I, like, our music tastes are really similar. And so I'm like, oh yeah, I heard this album this year, and I'll buy him like 3 or 4 albums to be like, here, these are albums I've heard that have come out through the year. He sent me a list to a top 15 prog albums of the year this year. I'm just like, I've heard like 7 or 8 of these, and they're all fantastic. And he's just like, I've heard like 2. I'm just like, well, I know what I can get you. Aside from the fact I've already bought him a present a few months ago, which was a ticket to a gig on his birthday next year. So it's like, yeah. So I've got like a million ideas of things I can get him for presents always, because I can just be like, yeah, these are movies, albums even. But yeah, I don't really know what to get anyone else, but thinking about that, plans. Yeah, yeah, it's yes, it is. It is the holiday times. So yeah, how has the year been for you? It's been a kind of crazy year, 2016.
Yeah, it's been busy for me. It's kind of like, for me, it's my first whole year actually living in London. So like last year I moved down for work, kind of like got a new job, and kind of like it's been now kind of like this full year of living in London and kind of going. I'm a country bumpkin, born and raised in like Shropshire in the middle of freaking nowhere, and
Yeah,
London's like, it's a mixture of being amazing and the most frustrating experience at the same time. It's like,
yeah,
if I want to do something, there are already people doing it. Like,
yeah,
anything you can think of, there is already some people in London already doing that. So
yeah,
whatever taste you've got, you can do that. The most annoying thing with London is you go anywhere near central London on a weekend or a bank holiday and you can't move. It's just like
yeah.
so many people, and I'm a tall person, I'm 6'5", I walk fast, and kind of having that many people around is just basically a nightmare for me, because I feel like I'm bobbing and weaving kind of like through all these people, and eventually, not I'm trying not to, but I will knock somebody, and kind of like it usually comes off worse for the other person. Like, I've accidentally kind of
Yeah.
like, you've had maybe 2 people who are trying to like bob and weave and walk through while everybody else is not, and you bump into each other, and I've accidentally like bumped somebody to the ground before, and it's just like, I'm not like running through the crowd, I'm just kind of like
Yeah.
weaving through, but it's just like, yeah, I'm kind of like twice the size of you, and that was an accident. But no, it's been a really interesting year. Kind of like,
Yeah.
I think interesting is the word that I'm going to use personally. Kind of like, work has been kind of like, it's taken me to abroad for the first time, which is like, it's been really good. Been to the US and been to Italy, thanks to mergers kind of like with the company that I work for. So that's been really interesting. We're in sales season right now, so it's kind of really busy at work. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
like, this is the thing that's really different to me than a lot of other years. That kind of, I used to work for like a financial company, so it
Yeah.
goes dead during like the winter period. Like, you like most places they even like have the whole week off between Christmas and New Year. Like, nobody comes in and does
Yes, I
anything. It's
do,
just like,
but
you close up and you come back like 2 weeks later. Whereas the only day of the year that like our call center closes is on Christmas Day. So
mhm.
it's 24 hours every single day apart from Christmas Day. So
Ouch. Yeah. Yeah, I'm lucky with my work. Like this year, I got taken to the Netherlands. I went to, yeah, some nice places there. Flew into Germany, drove across. Spent like 3 days. Yeah, 3 days there. And then I've been invited to other things as well. Like I nearly had a trip to Israel as well. That was like on RTX week, so I was like, I'm already flying away that week. I can't help out. Um, but yeah, I've been given opportunities this year that have been fantastic, and luckily I've been seizing them. And yeah, things at work have been going well. Like I've mentioned already, I have the week off between Christmas and New Year because our products are technically seasonal. We're just about to come up to when we get busiest, but when we get back, there's going to be so many, so many liters of products to be produced. Um, because we do fertilizers and things like that. So
yeah, it's all starting to get into that. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we're in the call center, so sale happens now. So even
yeah,
if like the contacts per customer, I mean, contacts per order is exactly the same, that means that we're making shitloads more orders. So there's going to be
yeah,
absolutely turd loads more
yeah,
uh, calls, and it's effectively my responsibility to try and have the right number of people in the office to deal with this kind of like increase. So
Yeah.
I'm in a it's just always a slightly stressful time for me because I'm in a damned if I do and a damned if I don't state, because either I have too many people in and people are sitting on their ass doing nothing,
Yeah.
or I don't have enough people in and we're like taking too long to answer all the calls or taking too long
Yeah.
to answer all the emails. And it's
Ugh,
like to try and find
God.
this like happy medium in
Yeah.
between, which
Mhm.
so far I think I've just about done.
Nice.
But my aim is always I don't try and make it perfect. I always try and say I'm going to beat what happened last year. So last year is my target. What happened in 2015? All I
Yeah.
have to do is be better than 2015, and
Mhm.
then how much better is kind of like I almost say if I make it too much better, 2017 I've now got to do is making that even harder. If I make
Yeah.
if I perfect 2016, they're going to expect exactly the same in like 2017. Although it's basically impossible to perfect it.
Yeah. That's why I'm finding like I've just had some goals set for me. And well, not necessarily me, but my department, but it reflects mostly on me. And it's just a case of, oh, I now need to reach those targets or exceed them for the next few years, and it's probably only going to get increasingly more difficult.
Yeah. Well, you kind of think that there'll be some technological advances kind of like during the year. There'll be some things that will make some things faster or more efficient during the year.
Hmm.
So you kind of like, you should be able to do it. But it's kind of like, I found this kind of quite early on when I started working. It's kind of like, I started my first kind of like office job was doing manual calculations for a pension company. So like just doing stuff in an Excel spreadsheet. And like
Hmm.
they just kind of like that was after me finishing university. I went in and they expected like somebody to do like 15 a day, and I came
Uh-huh.
in and I was starting doing like 40 a day,
Yeah.
and they were just like, oh okay. So they weren't going like, oh you're 3 times better than everybody else. It was like after like 1 week they were like, okay now we expect you to do 40 a day, and it's just like bollocks. I shouldn't have gone and done 40 a day to start off with.
Yeah.
I should
It's
have
like, oh
just
no,
gone
I'm
in and
doing my job too well.
just gone in and done a solid 20, and they would have just been like, oh yeah, you're doing really well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay. So, what else has happened in 2016? It's I don't want to go political because there's too much political bollocks that's gone on in the year. Let's think about things in the world. So, what games have come out this year that have been particularly interesting to you?
So I think, well, obviously it was voted Game of the Year. So Overwatch, I think, is probably kind of like one of the ones to kind of like. I've definitely spent some time in that. I'm
Yeah.
probably think about maybe like level 80.
Uh huh.
So I've not spent masses of time in it. I've spent a reasonable amount when it first came out. I probably got to like level 50 playing it probably like at least like 2 or 3 games every day when it first came out.
Yeah.
And I kind of after a while kind of got slightly tired of the mechanic. But then they brought in the like the season and the competitive play,
Yeah.
which kind of like every single season that kind of like draws me back because like you do like 10 games to get yourself your ranking, and then
Yes.
you can kind of improve that or kind of like do that. But kind of like every time I've done the 10 games, if
Mhm.
I get a crap ranking,
Yeah.
if I kind of like, cause it's still, because you have people who leave during games, you have kind of this. I still don't think that it's quite evened out, kind of like what your score will be based on. I don't know how much is based on actually how well you do as an individual in the game, and whether
Yeah.
it's just kind
Hmm.
of like a win or a loss. So it's kind of like you just kind of I get a score, and if it's one that I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that, I'm going to work with it. So I think on season 2, I got something that kind of like put me about just about 3,500, and I
Uh huh.
spent ages trying to push to like 4,000,
Hmm.
and I kind of did that, and then kind of like this time I kind of went through it, and it gave me like 2,500,
Uh huh.
and I was just like, I played like 3 or 4 games, and the difference of the people you play with
Yeah.
was like immense. Like when I was playing at like 3,500 and 4,000, everybody would be on the mics talking to each other, saying, "Okay, there's a Genji up there, or there's a Reaper who's come in behind," kind of
Yeah.
like talking it through. And on this, it's kind of like I would be talking, and there'd be no one else kind of like listening or
No
saying
one.
anything, and it's just like I all kind of I'm fairly comfortable with a lot of the characters,
Yeah.
but half the time when the lower end, it just meant I was going support because nobody was picking a support character. It's
Yeah.
like Soldier 76 is the first person picked, then like every single time.
Dear. I yeah, I can't remember what new games I've played this year. I think Dark Souls 3 came out this year. Um although I wouldn't be surprised if I were wrong, although I think that's the case. And then Pokemon Sun's also been out, so I've been playing that a whole bunch, although that's been really only recently. As for other games, there's a game called Steep that's just come out that I really want to play because it's a snowboarding game. Final Fantasy 15's come out. There's so many games come out that I want to play, but I'm just like,
Yeah,
I need money
I've
and
I've done I did probably a quick-ish Final Fantasy playthrough, so I kind of got to about level 50 and then decided, all right, I'm going to progress with the storyline a bit.
yeah.
And there's actually a bit where once you progress, you can't go back to like the other thing and do more of the things. So it's just like, oh, well, it's like really open world and then just goes linear, like at one
Oh
moment. And
man.
and like what's the only thing that's kind of annoying about that is there are moments in the open world bit where it's like, oh, are you sure you want to do this? You might not come back. And then you do like an hour's gameplay left, and it does that like 3 times. So when it did like the fourth time, I was just like, oh, I'm gonna get to come back at some point, and it was like, oh wait, maybe not.
Oh my god. Does it play well?
I enjoyed it. I think the almost like the bros, the 4 characters. I think kind of like
Yeah.
if you do a lot of the side quests and you kind of like get to know the characters, I think
Yeah.
it's a really good kind of like group of people together. I really enjoyed kind of like their relationships that kind of like build. It was kind of like it was bizarre for me. I don't know if it's because I didn't find the side quest that did it, but I never found any sort of like romance missions for even kind of like any of the other kind of like side team or your central person, because there's
Uh-huh.
kind of like a bit in that, and then kind of to be honest, I thought the end of the game wasn't particularly great. But then when I read that supposedly there's already some DLC lined up for it, it's kind of like, have you done the thing of basically not releasing the full game, and you're going to throw some
Yeah.
DLC at me to kind of like get me to cough up another 20 quid to actually play the full game? But
Yeah, I heard that on the patch that the game just isn't finished. Like it finishes pretty abruptly with no actual resolution on what's going on. But that's only what I've heard from the patch because the patch are like where I listen to for my games news, obviously.
yeah, and I don't agree with kind of like most with what they say. It's kind of like I watched the 2 anime kind of like things as well. So I watched the full length film, and I watched like
Yes.
the 6 episodes, which was about kind of like the bros, so you kind of like got to know them a little bit better, and it did build the world quite well, and like
Uh-huh.
it made the world like very interesting.
Mm,
But to be honest, the ending made little or no sense to me.
fair enough.
And it's kind of like when you've put, I think I probably had 40 hours maybe on
Yeah.
that gameplay, and
Mhm.
it's kind of like I would say the last 5, I was just like, hmm, okay, I'm kind of like I'm finishing this because I'm hoping basically there's going to be something more afterwards, but it
Uh-huh.
didn't do that. It's kind of like it felt weird because kind of like that sort of kind of game is usually like my favorite type of game. So like The Witcher, like
Mhm.
Fallout, those sort of games are the ones that like I really enjoy playing. Where you kind of like you get this kind of you build some camaraderie between kind of like the people that you're actually traveling with. Some of the side quests are generally more fun than the actual like main missions, and it did that really well to start off with. But
Mhm.
it's kind of it felt weird. There's a lot of things that I felt about it felt weird because it's like they delayed the release of it because they said, "Oh, we don't want to have a big day one patch." Because then everybody won't get the experience, and then they released it, and there was a big day one patch, and it's
It
just
was like
like,
3 gigabytes or something stupid.
yeah, and like I was on Xbox, so I didn't have the issue that obviously
The
Ashley talked about on the
PlayStation
patch
issues,
with the
yeah.
PlayStations, with it not automatically
Mhm.
doing it. But it was just like I would have gone mental if like there's so much that because you can pre-download games now, so like the game you
Yeah.
can be ready to play on that moment. Like
Yes.
there are some games where you'll be downloading it and it'll say like, oh, ready to start, and I'll look at it and it'll be like 25%, and I'm just like, okay, what does that mean? Because some games that means you can go into the loading screen and do
Yep.
absolutely
Hmm.
nothing else basically apart from
Yep.
fiddle around with the options. And some
Uh-huh.
other games you can actually go in and play like a level. So Dishonored 2, you
Hmm.
can play the first level, or even like the first, probably like the first half of the first level,
Yeah.
uh, while it's kind of like loading the rest of it. And kind of
Mhm.
so that I did that, and like Dishonored 2 was a good. Well, I think it's basically Dishonored again. So if you like
Yes.
Dishonored, you will like Dishonored 2. I don't think they've
That's good.
added much
Okay.
to it. It's
Just more story.
yeah,
Yay!
it's more story. You have the princess who has some slightly different abilities, so
Okay.
you can do things slightly differently. But yeah, the best thing about that game is like it's one which guarantee you play through twice at least, because
Yes.
as always for me, I do my stealthy kind of like non-lethal one first,
Ah.
and then the second one I kill absolutely every single person possible. I go into every single room, I find every single piece of loot, and it's just like and then they introduced chaos into this one. So
Okay.
in some of the later levels, kind of like the way people behave to you is dependent on like if you've done like the good things to kind of like spare people's lives instead of killing them, like
Yeah.
other people behave to you better, whereas if you just go murder the shit out of people, they don't like you.
Yeah. That happens in the first game, doesn't it?
Yeah, to a
As
certain
well.
extent. I think
To
it's
to
it's
to an
pushed.
extent, there's like more rats and everything in like the chaotic world, and
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah,
Ah.
to push that out. I'm trying to think what else I kind of played. It's a lot of kind of like bit things. So kind of, I've played a bit of Battlefield 1, bit of
Ah.
Battlefront, which was at the start of the year. Wasn't it? Well, that actually
Star
may have been
Wars.
2015. Actually, thinking about it now. I
Yeah,
think
I can't remember when that came out. It might have
I think it
been
went in
early this
2015.
year or end of last year.
Yeah, I think it was end of last year because there was always
Uh-huh.
like, oh look, there's a map for which is going to be in Knights of the Old Knights of the Old Republic. That's not the name of
That's not
the
it.
film. Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Okay.
But yeah, so no, that would have been 2015, but new maps in
Yeah.
2016. Same with like Rainbow Six. That's one I play a bit every now and then.
Siege.
Yeah, Siege. So
Siege.
they upload new maps every now and then, so and some new characters, so it gets you back into it. And it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
is that new content? Is that not? I think the one thing
Ah.
that disappointed me is like I was really looking forward to December for games for the fact that the new South Park game was going to come out. And it was
Uh-huh.
supposed to
It's
be
been
supposed to be
pushed, hasn't it?
scheduled to. It's been pushed to like it had a definitive release date
Yeah.
of like the 6th of December or 16th of December. No,
Yeah.
I think it was the 6th. And now it's got a Q1 2017 to release date, and it's just like no,
No.
because Q1 is like well, okay, I'm gonna get it on the 31st of March, aren't I?
Yeah. Obviously, that's when it's going to be. Ah, dear. Have you seen Rogue One? Speaking of Star Wars.
Yes, I have.
What did you think of it? Okay, so spoiler talk because I saw it 2 days ago. So why not just go into spoiler town for like 5 minutes or so? Maybe not even 5 minutes, maybe two. Let's see. What did you think?
Okay, I think it started really poorly,
Uh
but
huh.
by the end, I thought it was a really, actually good film. Quite a good, much better than I was anticipating.
Okay, yeah. So I started off and I was like, this is okay. It's just it wasn't very Star Warsy. Obviously, they're like using the plans of the Death Star. They're trying to get the plans of the Death Star. They're using the Death Star for once
Yeah.
to like demonstrate its power. And I don't know. There was something about it to me that was just like a bit odd. And I was like, this is, I don't know, enjoyable, but
I
it
think to
didn't
me,
really
kind of
need
like,
to be a Star Wars film.
I don't think it is a Star Wars film, and to be honest, that's maybe what I liked about it. I think it's
Yeah.
the first time that they've shown there's actually a freaking giant war going on in Star Wars, and like let's actually get some proper ass consequences for kind of what is going on. It's like
Yeah.
you have good people in inverted commas who are on the Alliance who are not good people. They've done really, really bad things to be
Yes.
like rebels. Like they've
Yeah.
done really bad things, and they get the choice effectively of kind of like, oh shit, we can all give up, or
Yeah.
actually we've got to continue. And to be honest, I didn't think Disney had the balls to kill absolutely everybody.
I know.
I really
Ridiculous.
I thought somebody was gonna survive and kind of like was gonna be like that hope person to kind of like
Hmm.
which kind of like would have done it, but they've decimated
They just, oh
everybody,
yeah,
and they did
everyone.
it
Oh,
most of them in a brilliant fashion. So kind of like
yes.
yeah, we got our sarcastic robot who was to me somewhere
Man,
between
he was the funniest part of that movie, which is
yeah.
good. He was the comic relief of the film, and
He was
I
like
thought it was
I think he
fantastically
was
well
somewhere
characterized.
between like Marvin the paranoid android and
Mhm.
C3PO, like somewhere kind of like between there, where he was just kind of like, I know I'm right, and kind of like you all choose to basically ignore me. So,
I think
but
it was
kind
the
of like
best. Like he had a bunch of lines as well that were references to other Star Wars films,
yeah,
and like I think that's where I had like the most fun time being like, that's from that film.
yeah. I thought kind of like good character. When I watched it in the cinema, some people bloody were like, almost like falling out of their seat seemingly with laughter at everything he said. And I was kind of like, it's funny. It's not like
Mhm.
that funny, but I can kind of see where you're going. There was one moment though that I really thought was going to happen in the movie, which was going to make me hate it, and it
Yeah.
didn't happen. I thought that Jin and the other guy were going to kiss at the end.
Yeah, I'm so glad they didn't.
I'm just like, I'm so glad that they didn't try and shoehorn a fake romance that would have
Yeah.
built over effectively like 2.5 days, where
Yeah, I know. That's
during
what I
those
was
two and a
thinking. I
half
was like,
days he nearly tried to kill her father.
yeah, there was so much going on. I was just like, no, that doesn't make any sense. I'm glad that they didn't go down that path, because that was, I don't know, I found that rather infuriating. But it's like near the end when they're accepting that it's the end of, they've done their job and that it is the end of their line. Like, them just sitting on that beach is just like, it's
It's
emotional
like,
for
it's
sure.
brilliant.
But
It's
I'm
emotional.
glad
Like,
that they didn't shoehorn a romance into it,
yeah,
because that would have just ruined it.
I think they hold each other's hand, which I think is like a perfectly like capable thing of kind of like they have bonded over what's happened, but it's kind
And
of
they're
like,
incredibly scared as well. So
yeah,
that's the significance of that, I felt.
yeah. And
Sure.
I think kind of like, I think the other thing to say about Rogue One for me was visually it was stunning,
Yes.
absolutely
They had
amazing.
Grand Moff Tarkin in it. What?
We see that was probably one of the ones where I was just kind of like,
I
okay, you
know.
CGI'd basically the old person to be there instead of actually kind of maybe just finding someone else to play the role. And I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm still undetermined what I thought of that, because it's kind of like there's the slight nod of going, oh, it is like it looks exactly like the same guy but slightly younger. But then it's just kind of like, you could have just got someone else to play it. And
Yeah.
when
The end of his talking every time, I was like, he's so obviously CGI. Because every time he finished talking, there was something that was just off about it. I was like, this is Uncanny Valley for sure.
yeah, but I think
like,
that's the point. Is there was something, the point that there was something off was that there wasn't a mannerism that kind of like he did when he finished a sentence, or some kind of just odd twitches here or there that like a human being would have done.
Yes.
It was kind of just a little bit too generic. I think they did it better with when you see a young Carrie Fisher as Leia, where it's just kind of like it's a one.
I don't know if that was like her with CG on, because she looked fat with makeup.
No, I think I think it generally was, because I think if you kind of actually go back to kind of like the first Star Wars film, she kind of like she's quite a round in the face person, so it's kind of like I think that was just kind of like a quick CGI turn. That's all you needed to see. You can have your moment. I think kind of like they used Darth Vader just the right amount. Kind of like
Yes.
he was kind of like wasn't really in it. He basically force choked somebody, which everybody wanted to see. You obviously want to see a bit of force choking.
Yep.
You see him basically be a badass motherfucker with the lightsaber at the end, kind of like blocking off all the pistol shoots.
Yeah.
The only thing is I need to go back and watch the first movie now, because to me, like his neck piece looks really fucking weird.
Yeah.
And I'm now kind of going, that how it looked in the movie? But I'm just like, it's my subjective kind of like kid memory just going like, no, that's not what Darth Vader looked like. And I'm now like, okay, I'm gonna have to go watch A New Hope and look at it and go, oh yeah, he did look like that. And so they've just kind of stuck with it instead of kind of like doing a bit maybe what could be described as a continuity error by kind of pulling it to side.
Yeah. I thought it was. Yeah, I really enjoyed that Darth Vader did show up. That was great. I've been watching Daredevil as well. I actually finished watching Daredevil yesterday. I watched like 6 episodes of it, and the blind character in Rogue One just made me think of Daredevil the whole time. And then when I was watching Daredevil, like I was like, oh yeah, it's the same kind of thing, and it was just like I was just like, oh, that's really cool. And yeah. I'm glad there was like a very, I don't know, in Rogue One I felt like I'm glad there was like a lack of representation of people able to use the Force, mainly because the only person that we know of, the 2 people that we know of, are Leia and Darth Vader at that point. Because going throughout the story, we know of Luke, but we don't know of his existence or his training in any way.
Yeah, and you get the one moment where you have whatever the name of the admiral kind of saying, I will try and contact my old Jedi friend who I fought with in the war. So he says that one-liner to say like, oh, he's going to send Leia to find him.
Yes.
So kind of like you get that one off-the-cuff remark of kind of going, obviously, yeah, he fought with Obi-Wan kind of like during the Clone Wars. So
yeah. So yeah, there's a whole lot of nods and references, which is not surprising at all because it's a Star Wars film.
But
Um,
what was
yeah,
better than Force Awakens is it was a good standalone movie. I don't think kind of like it's very interesting to watch because I don't think it adds any. You kind of you don't need to add that to the Star Wars universe to really. It doesn't add much to the Star Wars universe by just being
no,
that film. But I want to know if now this is quite a big jump.
uh-huh.
That in that they showed that like I said, like the rebels aren't all good,
Yeah,
and I want to know are they going to do that in like episode 8 or episode 9? So kind of
hmm,
already showing this that kind of like the maybe the rebels aren't all kind of like good people
yes.
is actually going to
Yeah,
make some
because
sense.
they're the rebellion rather than the alliance, so they're trying to rebuild the alliance, and obviously, but like when it's the rebellion, obviously you've got all these bad people that they're rebelling against the empire
Yep.
because the empire is objectively bad,
Yeah.
whereas the people that are for the rebellion would be subjectively bad rather than like in terms of like the grand scale of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know, very interesting with what they can do with it. However, given the tone of the Force Awakens, I don't think we'll see things like that in like in episode 8.
Yeah. I kind of like it's really weird because I don't know
Mhm.
what they're going to do with it because they played it safe with 7. They played it like as safe as you could possibly play it.
Yeah, and they
And
just
so
echoed the story of
4.
episodes 4 and 5.
So it's now just kind of like okay, you've played it safe. Now you have to make the choice. You have to make the gambles that like Lucas did with 1, 2, and 3, and everybody hated them, or are you gonna stick to kind of like the working kind of methods of kind of like 4, 5, and 6 to kind of
Hmm.
actually get you your 7, 8, and 9? Because I think Disney wants to close it that off, and then they can do well with all these standalone movies. So you have Rogue One, that's done relatively well. If they get a good Han Solo movie out there,
Hmm.
I think then that's somebody like they can just have so many escapades or stupid things that he's done like in the past, so they can push
Yeah,
that. There's so many other characters which they can just go into single or maybe even double or maybe even triple movies about. They give them
yeah,
more wiggle room than the main storyline does.
yeah. You can also they can also like characterize any of the battles that exist like in the Star Wars universe and say, "Oh, these are the factions that were fighting. Let's explore things about them." But that's not necessarily like how things are going to go. I guess they've also trashed a lot of the expanded universe as well.
Well, yeah,
It's
it's
like,
all,
haha, that's irrelevant. But
but
it's
it's kind of it's
not.
weird that yeah, well, it's now all
Yeah,
legends, so it's kind of like
yeah,
you have the movies which are now 8. You
yeah.
have the Clone Wars animated series, you have the
Mm-hmm.
Rebels animated series, and you have the comics they're now doing with Marvel, and about 5 or 6 books that have come out. They're the only things now which are canon.
Mm-hmm.
And now in some of those they've reintroduced like some of like the better characters that
Mm-hmm.
like actually like existed in like the what is now called Legends, Star Wars Legends.
Yeah.
So they're trying to do some good things around that, but it's all a massive wait and see. Like I always like before like we ever had any of these movies, me and my one of my best friends used to chuckle about was Jar Jar Binks basically the greatest evil behind everything that went on. Because if you just look at it, kind of just like if he is basically like the biggest like Sith Lord, then it's just kind of it's just one of those hilarious things. If you kind of go like all the stupid mistakes that he makes, if they were all
Yep.
deliberately planned, it's like it just makes the film so much more funny.
Yeah, I can imagine. I would totally want to go back and watch those through that lens. Just like, oh
Or
yes, this
the
is
other one which I
ridiculous.
quite liked was actually the fact that Count Dooku was trying to do the right thing. So he's trying to bring like the Empire or kind of like the Sith down from the inside instead
Mm-hmm.
of kind of like actually fully joining like the dark side.
Yeah. Ah, right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, that was a lot of Star Wars talk because Star Wars is amazing, obviously. But yeah. How about we wrap up there and yeah, thank you again for being. Well, thank you, I guess, to start for being my guest this week. Where can we find you across the internet?
Across the internet, you can look for Rustman2K across most of the social media websites and pretty much every
Cool,
gaming console. That is my tag. And
cool,
yeah, that's how you can find me. And obviously the same on the RT site. I'll just say one
nice.
thing. The one thing I'm really looking forward to before the end of this year is that first little glimpse of 11 Little Roosters.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. 11 Little Roosters. That's going to be great. That's going to be fantastic. There's so many. I don't know. It looks so good. But considering they're like only just filming it now, like they've just finished filming it, I was like, that's a lot of work for them to turn around pretty quick.
Well,
But
yeah, I think they're only doing one teaser thing this side of 2016, and then the main
yeah,
bit of it is coming out
it's
in.
coming in like, I was going to say February?
No, I think they said like 20th of January or something
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
Fair enough. But yeah, that's going to be an absolute riot. But yeah, cool. Well, thank you again for being my guest. I can be found across the internet at Destroy Topham or at Ethfar. Thank you everyone for listening. Have an exciting Christmas. You're all my favorites. Goodbye.
Goodbye.